friends.
Hi, friends.
We're back. It's episode 50 of the Brunch and Judge.
Closing in on that year mark.
Wow, I know. We're getting there. We're getting there.
We are.
So we are your hosts. I'm April.
And I'm Claire.
And this week we are continuing our discussion of cults.
Yes.
Ooh.
Cults always
Culty
need
time.
cults always need a little extra episode love.
I feel like it just takes some time to really talk about how it got to culty place and then to really emphasize
Right.
why it's culty, especially
Yes.
when some people may not think it's culty or just like their timeline is long. I mean, it just takes time.
Right.
You have to give cults
It's
the
just
time that they need.
and some of them are just very but why?
But why?
It's just like,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
All
Anyway.
right. Well, before that, Claire, what are you judging this week?
I just came up with this 2 seconds ago. Um I saw a commercial for a movie called 80 for Brady. And I'm like, but why?
80 what?
I think it's the age. Okay, so it's got a lot of like older actresses in it. Like I think Jane Fonda. Um
Wow.
hang on, I'm gonna look it up. The chick from West Side Story, Rita Moreno.
Sure.
You're like, sure, sure,
I
sure.
mean, like I know these names, but I'm like,
Yes, yes. Jane Fonda, Sally Field, Rita Moreno, Lily Tomlin. Anyway, from what I can gather, they're like this group of best friends who apparently love Tom Brady and
gross.
their goal, yes, gross, and want to go see him in some Super Bowl. Not like, but this is when he played for the Patriots. This is not like currently. This is like in the past. Let me hang on. What is it? What does the
I'm sorry.
synopsis say?
They just now made a movie about people who wanted to watch him play in a sporting event back 5 years ago.
Apparently. Oh, here we go.
Okay.
Four best friends live life to the fullest when they embark on a wild trip to see their hero, Tom Brady, play in the 2017 Super Bowl.
Pause, pause. Their hero?
Hero.
Well,
Hero.
now I think less of everyone. All right. I mean,
I just, yes. Why?
I
Why?
feel like we need
Nobody
to
needed this.
really explain the concept of hero because hero is not, they're really good at a sport and also they're assholes about it.
Right.
Hero
Like,
is they're exceptionally good at a sport, but they do all these amazing things for the community and other people during their non-sportsy time, and they're not
right.
assholes about it.
Right.
That's a hero. Look
But
at all
apparently
the
it's
money
like,
they raised, you know. Look at
yes.
how they spent all their free time helping sick kids or whatever. None of those things describe Tom Brady.
No, no.
Oh God.
He's selfish. He's so fucking selfish. Oh, I just can't.
He's
I saw the preview for that and I was like, who asked for this movie?
no one other than
No,
Tom Brady.
nobody.
Tom
Other
Brady's
than
the only one
Tom
who asked for
Brady.
this movie. The answer is who is Tom Brady? Like
I'm just
even
like,
Giselle is
but
like, no,
why?
I don't want that.
Right.
Fuck that. He's an
Right? It's just
asshole.
like I suppose I saw that and I was just like, oh, I'm like, this is cringy. I'm sorry. This is just
Okay, so wait,
extra
I feel like
cringy.
I need to go back. So like the actresses are just playing this group of four best friends. They themselves were not the four best friends, right?
Oh
Please
yes,
tell
yes,
me.
yes. Yes, yes,
Okay,
yes. This is
because
just yeah.
well, like I already looked down upon them for playing these characters, but I was gonna like really look down upon them and never
No,
watch
no,
them
no.
in anything again if that okay.
This
But
is not like a
also
documentary.
I
Okay, this
feel
is
like I need to look at them and say, hey, you're allowed to pass when it's bullshit. This is one of those times you could have just hard passed and everyone would have been like,
right.
yeah, hard pass.
Right. It's just like, oh geez. But
Oh
no, it's
my
not like
God.
yeah, they're just playing for best friends who apparently are but from what I can gather in the trailer or the ad that I saw, they don't have Super Bowl tickets. So it's one of those movies where they're like trying, like oh, let's bond on the road trip. Let's bond while we're trying to get the tickets that we should have bought months ago. I don't know. It seems like one of those. And then at one point they wind up in the locker room and it shows Jane Fonda with Gronk, which I'm just like
I
with Gronkowski.
I don't know how I feel
Like
about this, but okay.
I'm just like, what? No, no. Mm. You're right.
So wait,
I
wait.
bet you this is Tom Brady's like this is his movie idea
So
because
like
he's
the
so into
premise of the
himself.
movie is four people become obsessed with a guy that they managed to break into the locker room. Is that what you're telling me? So this is a
Apparently,
stalker story. Okay. Just making
kinda.
sure
Yeah. Uh
that it's a story about insane people falling in love with an insane person.
huh.
And I'm
Nobody
kind of like,
is sane in this
no,
movie.
mm-mm.
Oh,
Hard pass. I'm gonna hard pass on this movie, Claire.
right. We're not. No,
I'm not
not
even
gonna go
gonna
to the
like
movies.
hate watch it. I'm just like, nope.
No, absolutely
Mm-mm.
not.
In fact,
I am
from this
not
point
putting a
on, I'm gonna pretend like it doesn't even exist.
I'm not putting a dime in his pocket. Absolutely not. Because we know he's in the movie, so it's like, no.
Ugh. No, I mean, like, if we could have like John Grady, if it were like a spoof or whatever, I'd be
Right.
here for the spoof. Hey,
But not like actual Tom Brady.
if you're listening, people out there who make movies, make me a Tom Brady spoof called John Grady. And like I
She'll be all
want
over
like all the bad things to happen to John Grady where and everybody just laughs and has a good time.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. I could get
Yeah.
behind that. Yeah,
But yeah, this is a thing. This is real life. I don't like this timeline that we're in.
God.
It's like what
Oh,
is this?
no. Can we trade? Can we trade like Tom
I
Brady
know.
for let's bring back let's bring back Betty White. I choose Betty White over Tom Brady. I'm gonna make
Right.
that trade. Mm-hmm.
Or Leslie Jordan.
Oh, Leslie Jordan. I would
You know?
okay. That made me so sad because I've been watching Call Me Cat.
Oh, and did you see the episode
And
where
no, I
oh
stopped
that
watching it because I was like, I don't want to
because
see
you
him
knew
gone.
you're like, I can't do this. Because I saw the little clip where they're all like talking about how they're gonna miss him, like it's in the show, and then
Mm-hmm.
they bring out his chair, and one of the
Ugh,
guys is like sobbing, and I'm like,
ugh.
I don't even know what's happening on this show, and I'm gonna cry with these people because
Well, like I
it
started
was so
watching it
sad.
because I was like a cat cafe in Louisville, Kentucky, and it's
Right?
Blossom. Okay.
You're like, I'm here for this.
I can do this. I'm here for it. You know? And then it turned out to be cute and funny and
Uh huh.
I enjoyed it. And part of the cute funny is Leslie Jordan, so
This is Leslie Jordan. Yeah.
I don't know how it's gonna go. How do you
Mm,
replace that magnificent character?
you don't. But
I
yeah, let's bring back Leslie or Betty. Go away,
mean,
Tom.
yeah, I there are probably some low level dictators I might choose over Tom Brady, but just saying. Um,
Wow.
I mean, very low level, like super like benevolent kind, where you're just kind of like, it's probably fine they're gone, but they were really
Right.
bad, you know.
Right. But yeah, that that is my judge.
Wow.
It's who was the person who decided to make who greenlit this premise
Tom Brady.
because oh gosh, that's my judge. Who
I
came up
still
with this? Who greenlit it? Like how? How did this get past like uh who's gonna go see that? Not me.
not
Only
me.
people who were like sucking Tom Brady's dick, that's
Well,
who. It's
so
just like
like one of my nephews, because I don't know, my brother just didn't teach him right. That's all I can come up with.
yes.
But
Uh-huh.
one of my nephews is obsessed with Tom Brady, and my brother tries to explain it away as, well, the Patriots were really big while he was growing up. And I'm like, so you still have the ability to teach your child right from wrong. That's wrong.
Right.
And so,
You're
like,
just like, this is not no, this is unacceptable.
I give him crap all the time whenever it comes up. I'm like, there are so many people you could have chosen, and you chose the biggest douchebag in all of football history, which
Right.
says a lot because there's a lot of douchebags in
I know.
football.
It's like, who cares if he's like one of the greatest players who's ever lived? He's a
I'm over
dick.
here going like, everybody loved OJ Simpson too. See how that worked out? Just
Right.
saying. Just
Right.
saying.
Exactly.
Ugh. Oh, maybe this is the beginning of the downfall because OJ was in movies. And
Oh,
then the
yeah.
downfall
And
came, so
then that happened.
maybe this is what we're waiting for. Maybe the universe is trying to right itself.
Perhaps.
I can only dream and hope and wish and pray.
Nice. But anyway, that's my judge.
That is an excellent judge, Claire.
Yes.
Fuck
So,
Tom Brady. Hmm.
indeed. So, what are you judging
Well,
today?
complete 180 from that topic. Um, so earlier this week, well, I guess technically last week now, Spencer was showing me a YouTube video from a guy that he follows called Prophet of Zod, Zod.
Mhm.
And like we've watched, I mean, Spencer watches them a lot. I've seen quite a
Yeah.
few. He he is someone who grew up in a church but has since left um the church. I assume he's an atheist now based just on
What he
what he
says.
says or whatever. But he's like point counterpoint to like the bullshit that Christianity puts out there, and will like explain why them saying certain things is actually emotional blackmail or
Right.
and like he's very even keeled, very just da 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 da, like it's very soothing
Yeah.
almost to listen to.
Like,
Uh,
he's not really emotional about it. It's
right.
yeah.
And he hides his face. Like I think he puts like a maybe like a green mat, like a green screen, something on his face, and so it's always static. I always call him Static Face.
Oh, okay, gotcha, gotcha.
It's his shtick, whatever. Um, but he recently did a series on his experience with like converting, like being saved or whatever. Not converting, but like
Oh, okay,
whatever you
yes,
call it, being
uh-huh.
saved, going through salvation,
Yes.
and blah blah blah. And like he grew up in a church where speaking tongues was like a thing,
Uh-huh.
and if you never spoke tongues, people were concerned about whether or not you were saved, kind of a thing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And just
Mhm.
like all of the anxiety and stuff that he had around it all, and feeling like he didn't belong and that he did it wrong, or all of that stuff, and it really reminded me of growing up in church and having some of that same kind of feeling. Because I mean, most of the people our age were quote unquote saved when they were like
Yes.
7. That was like the thing you
Yes,
did at
uh-huh.
7 for whatever reason.
Yep, mhm. Not
Um,
me.
I
Did
didn't
not.
either.
Yep.
I was like, okay. So like I remember being, I think it was like evening church,
Uh-huh.
Sunday evening, doing the call to altar and just being like, okay, I'm gonna go do this now. And going down and doing the
I
thing.
think I
And I
did
was
mine on,
like,
like, I think I did mine on, like, a Sunday night too. I don't think I went
and no,
down,
I did not do it on Sunday morning. Crap that.
in front of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
No, no, no.
Um, but I think it was probably like 9 or 10. I actually don't remember anymore.
I think
Oops.
I was, like, 11? I was, like,
But
11 or 12?
all I
Yeah.
know is that I was not in the main group that went at 7.
Right. Right, right, right.
And like I was telling Spencer that about it because, we were watching the thing and I was like, I remember just deciding, okay, I'm going to go do this now. And my mom saying something to me later, like, why didn't you talk to me about it? And me being like, I didn't know I was supposed to. Am I supposed to talk to my parents before I make this decision? I thought it was just like it's I mean, it's very clear when they talk about it's a personal decision that you make in your
Right.
heart and it's all this stuff. And I'm like, I thought it was just me. I thought I had to make this decision, and there wasn't a
Right.
talk. It was you did this and that's it. And Spencer's like, that's so interesting, that like similar kind of stories to his, because like he did the same thing. He
Right.
gets saved, but he never has like the he's it like he could never do the tongues. Like he felt weird, it felt awkward, it didn't feel
Yeah.
like it felt like he had to fake it, and then he's watching all these other kids that he's pretty sure are faking it, but they just know how to do it's like a game. It's a game that you have
Right.
to play in order to look like you're saved. Um and I remember being like, feeling like that too, that there were things you're supposed to say and pretend like you care about things and pray and ask for prayers for things.
Yes.
And the key thing is to be like in prayer circle, you're always supposed to be like, if you have nothing to pray for, well, I have an unspoken request. My request is nothing. I have nothing. I have nothing. It's fine. My life's fine right now. But
Oh god.
you
Because then
remember.
if you said, "I have an unspoken request," then, like, people are like, "Oh, well, you can tell me later." And you're like,
Yeah.
"No,
Well,
no."
but it gave you like clout to have an unspoken prayer request. Do you remember? It's like, oh,
Yes, yes. Because 'Cause they're like,
you must be going
"Oh,
through so much. It
oh."
must just be really
Yes,
pain. And it was just like you had to have a prayer request. Do you remember? Do you remember that
yes.
feeling?
Mhm.
And like
And
I
I
told
remember,
huh?
like, prayer circle in the mornings, like,
Mm-hmm.
there were some people, it was like every single day was some oh my god, I mean, it was just like a diatribe
Yeah.
of it was like the same certain people, it was like this litany of things, and I get that, like, people who believe it's like, take it to the Lord in prayer, that kinda thing, but also it's like, you don't need to tell everybody, it's
Right. Well,
like
because they would tell you like really
right.
personal information that you're like, I don't need to know any of that. This is the
Yes.
time to be like, I have an unspoken prayer request. That's when you use
Right.
it. Or just
Right.
to, the
Ugh,
the canvas, there's a lot going on, God knows. That was my favorite. God knows, Jesus knows what's happening. And you're like, okay, just
mhm. Yep.
it's this weird, and it's so hard, looking at Spencer because he has no idea at all what we're talking about. He never grew up in
Right.
this. And I'm just like, I don't even know how to explain to you how there's these things that you do and you pretend and you act not because you truly, at least not for me. I guess I felt like I wasn't saved enough or Christian enough, or I wasn't doing it right. I always had lots of conflicting issues with Christianity, but
Well,
like, I
because
just
I
always
never
felt
had
awkward if I didn't
these
have a thing. Like, I had to have a thing. I have to pray. I have to, look like I'm in the moment, even though I'm just trying to make myself look like I'm in the moment. I'm not.
right, right. And it was like I never felt like I had these mountaintop moments is what they
Mhm.
called them,
No.
where it was like you would be on some retreat and you would have this vision or moment of clarity or whatever you want to call it and it's like Jesus like touched you
God spoke to
personally.
me and you're like, "Are you crazy? You're
Yes.
nuts. You're
Yeah.
insane."
Like I never had any of those and I think it was just finally I had been to for me personally. I had been to enough camps. I was like 11 or 12 and I think it was just like, ugh, I guess I might as well get this over with. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I remember in the moment, like, feeling, because I did it at camp initially. It was like at church, sports camp or
Mhm.
something. And, I did it and I don't think I felt that way then, but it was one of those, like, mom and dad would wanna talk about it, and I didn't want to because it made me so incredibly uncomfortable.
Yes.
Like,
Ugh.
I don't know what it was, there was just something always inherently even when I was a kid, that I did not wanna, like, talk about the Jesus-y part of church.
Mm.
Like, I'll tell you, like, "Oh, yeah, we did blah, 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 and we sang this song, and we did this," but you wanna start getting down to the nitty-gritty and, like, "Tell me about your soul," and, I'm like, "No,
Well,
no."
and
I've never been one to be like, "Yeah, tell me your" and people would do that when I was in college, and they'd be like, "Tell me your testimony," and I'm like,
oh my god.
what? No. No, no, no. No, we're not
My
doing that.
testimony is I was born into this church, so it was inevitable that I would 100% believe it and go forward and make choices based on that because that's what was around me. That's my testimony.
I
It's
know,
that.
yes. And that's what I would basically be like, I've been in church my entire life. Like, it was like
And
it's inevitable,
even
you
at the
know?
age of like 10, 11, I've not lived that much life in order to have a testimony as to my salvation experience. It is 100%
Right.
and sorry for anyone who is not on the same page as me. It's a very culty thing, haha, on topic, to get
Yes.
kids into it when they're little and young because they'll stay more likely to than it is to get adults in.
Yes.
So, like,
Well, see, and Walt was that way. My brother, he was very much, like, wanting to get baptized when he was, like,
mhm.
5 years old, and, of course, my parents didn't let him because they thought that was too young. But, I mean, granted, eventually I did get baptized before him, but probably not that long before him.
Mhm.
So he was there if I was like 11 or 12, he would have been like 8 or 9. So he was around the prime time
Mhm.
of like, and then it was like after you got baptized, they wanted you to go to like a special Sunday school class,
Okay,
and I'm like,
I
"No."
need you to know that I went to special, and it wasn't in
I
Sunday
did
school, it was,
not.
like, afternoon or whatever, and it was supposed to be me, and
Oh, hell
er
no.
never fucking showed up. He came, like, once or twice, and I remember just being like, "You're the goddamn pastor's son, you're supposed to fucking be here." And
Right.
being really annoyed about it, it's like, 'cause I had to go, and I was like, I don't remember anything out of it. All I know is that from my entire life, I have had these weird conflicting feelings because of the really overarching themes that church gives you, especially when you're a little kid. Um, it's you're supposed to love everyone, Claire.
Mhm.
You're supposed to love everyone. But Satan is evil. But Satan, doesn't he deserve love too? I
Right.
remember like praying in bed at night as a kid, like, praying for the whole my sweet little kid heart, praying for the whole world and that God would take care of everyone, and it's like, "I love everyone in the whole world because 'cause I'm a fucking kid, and I'm like, "And I even love you, Satan, but not, like, as much as everyone else because you're Satan, but, like, I feel like I'm supposed to love you because I maybe that's what Satan needs,
Right.
love, maybe," and it's just, like, so like, even thinking about it now
Right.
fills me with
Yes.
anxiety because I was just like, "I'm so conflicted. What am I supposed to do? What's the right
Right.
choice?"
Well, the
No
one that
one
really
talks
always,
about
like,
it.
made me, like, mad, and everybody, of course, I don't know, I know I'm not the only one who said this, but, like, for me, getting older, like, teenage-ish,
Mhm.
so Jesus Christ Superstar was, like, my fave.
Yes.
It's one of my faves. Anyway, for those of you who've never listened to it, like, the main person besides Jesus is Judas,
Mhm.
not Peter. And to
No.
me, that was so fascinating as a teenager, was like, this is like, and
Well,
in that it's, and this is to me was also, and I get it, it's a fucking musical and it's not the Bible, whatever. But to me it was like, oh my God, he didn't have a fucking choice.
no.
He didn't have a choice. And that to me was like, that's so unfair. you know, it was like, in these moments of just like, he didn't. Judas didn't have a choice.
Well, and that
He was forced to do what he did, and I'm like, because in my head I'm like, what if he just said no?
right?
What if he had just fucking said no? I'm not doing it. You know? Like that kind of stuff like would roll through my brain as a
Mhm.
teenager.
Well,
That
and
kind of junk would be like,
for me, like, yes, the Judas thing is incredibly fascinating, especially when you're like, how conflicted must he have felt? Like,
yes.
even, you
But you
know
bring things like that up and they look at you like you're some
yes.
kind of pariah
Well, or
because
well, and even just, like, how it ends, like, they crucify Jesus and it's just over.
Oh, in the movie? Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
so Jesus is dead and it's just over. That's how it ends.
And they just drive off in their little hippie bus. Yes.
And I remember the first time watching it, I'm sure it was with you. In
Probably
fact,
at
I'm pretty sure it
Sam's.
was at Sam's was the first time I ever
Yes.
saw it.
100%.
And I
Yep.
remember being like, "What if, man? Like, what if that it just ended
Right.
there? Does it change everything?" I'm sure. I mean, to be fair, like, my whole looking back, I can look back and see my Christianity as being something that was very temporary because I never fit. I remember going to like a DC Talk concert or something, or when we would go to like the
DC
festival and there'd be a
Talk.
bunch of music and like
Oh, or
they
like
would
the D
always
was it
do
Remember Discipleship Now and
yes.
oh my gosh.
And there would always be
And like
these like
Winter Jam.
call like
Yes.
altar call or whatever at the end, and they're just playing the music,
Uh-huh.
and you're just kind of like, and I'd be like, I wish this would end because I want to go get
Same.
some food, or I'm so excited to go do blah blah blah, which is happening
Yep.
after all this Jesus stuff. Like that's all I thought about is it being over. And next to us are people who are rededicating their lives, like they are in it and they're in that moment, and I'm like, it's DC Talk. What?
Right.
It's like I don't
I'd say
and I'm
the
like,
times that I had moments like I did have, not gonna say I didn't have moments. I did have moments
mhm,
like where it was something that was so overwhelming, like you could feel it, but those were few and far between.
mhm.
And honestly, like you, I feel like some of it was just like, oh, I'm gonna do this because I'm
That
supposed
I'm
to.
supposed to. Yeah, yeah,
No, I feel that. I really do. I absolutely empathize with that.
and like to I ended up going to college and I took a lot of religion classes. Like I took Greek so that I could translate the New Testament. I mean, like I've always been incredibly fascinated. I've always wanted to know more, but I find that the more
Right.
I know, the less I could believe it. It just and that that troubled me because I'm like, so there's these people who don't know very much, but they're believing it without any context at all.
Right.
And I'm like, that feels worse. It feels worse to know that there are people who 100% buy into something without having the context and understanding and then choosing to believe it because that obviously is still
Yes.
true.
Mhm.
But for me, I was just like, I want to know so much more. I'm so interested. I can't believe this anymore. It has been
Right.
my journey. Um, but so, but even that, like, even saying that out loud, like, the guilt is coming in. Is like, oh God,
Right.
how many people are going
Well,
to come
not only
pray for
that, it's
me?
just
And is this, am I supposed to do, like, did I just not do it right?
right.
Was I just
Yeah.
wrong? And I'm like, my little kid heart was authentic and it truly wanted all of it.
Right.
And I felt so guilty and awful when everyone around me seemed to be feeling a thing that I couldn't find.
Right.
So, I don't know.
No. I get it. I get
So,
it. I do.
it was that's my judge is that like good, bad, right or wrong. Like I have so many weird like guilt, anxiety things that are because I was trying so hard to fit into something that I just didn't really fit into.
I get that. I absolutely get that.
But so, there you go. There's my judge.
Nice. Excellent judge.
It's not even
Excellent.
and it's not even like an anti-religion judge as much as it's how much anxiety I whether it's just me I put myself through trying so desperately to do the right things, to look right.
Right.
Just how unnecessary it all was in the end. Whatever.
Indeed.
And on that note,
Yes.
before we get started, hold on. Let's
We're
not
doing a
forget our sweary
sweary
affirmation.
affirmations. Yes.
What is our sweary affirmation for this week? Do 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 do. Are you ready?
Yes.
It feels very, very biblical because it starts, "Thou shalt not.
uh
Thou shalt not worry about the opinions of irrelevant thundercunts."
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, that's my
Mhm.
favorite so far.
Mm.
That is
Irrelevant thundercunts. I'm here for that. All right.
fabulous. Fabulous. I love that.
So that
Yes.
is your sweary affirmation for the week. Do with that what you will.
Exactly. Oh, I love that so much.
All right. Continuing on, Claire,
On our cult journey.
on our culty journey.
All the cults. So many cults. I'm doing Heaven's Gate,
Woohoo!
and my sources are Wikipedia, All That's Interesting, and History.com.
Very good. Very good.
Because there's so much about out there about this. Anyway, so Heaven's Gate, founded by Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles in the 1970s. The main person that everybody knows about is Marshall Applewhite. He was born in 1931 in Texas to Marshall Sr. and Louise Applewhite. Marshall Sr. was a Presbyterian minister, so that could have led
Feels good,
to
you know.
yeah, yeah,
So what you're saying, Claire, is that perhaps I could still grow up to be a cult leader because I grew up in church.
perhaps. Maybe.
Maybe.
Perhaps.
There's still time for
Anyway,
me.
there is still time. You could be a cult leader. Hashtag goals. No, I'm kidding.
We all need
um,
a goal.
yes. He apparently was extremely religious as a child. Um, but he grew up and he had interests in music and acting. And at one point, he left and went to New York to pursue like an acting career, but that
Oh.
didn't.
I mean, obviously it didn't work out.
No, 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 no. He has a BA in philosophy. Uh,
Hey, me too.
and you're like, yeah. He married a woman named Ann Pierce, and they had two kids named Mark and Lane. And he was drafted to the military in 1954, and he left the military in 56. And he initially pursued a career in education, but then it said there are different things that it said, but ultimately he had an affair, not really affair, relationship. He had a relationship with with a male student. It was like his student. And so it said he resigned due to emotional turmoil.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
hard to be gay in that time.
indeed. Very much so. But he was at the University of Alabama, so that's a terrible place to be gay too.
Preach.
whether whether it was the time or the state.
All of the
In
above.
right. So after that, in 1965, he got divorced from his wife, and then he came out as gay to his family, and his parents ultimately rejected him. And then after his father passed, he suffered from severe depression, obviously. I
Yeah.
mean, your dad has
Unresolved.
rejected.
Your dad rejected you,
Yeah,
now he's gone, so you can't fix it.
exactly. Yeah, you're just like, oh gosh. I mean, yeah, that just sucks really bad. That's just terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, in 1972, Marshall's path crossed with a nurse named Bonnie Nettles. There, I've read so many different things about how they met. There's lots of discrepancies. He no, that seriously, like he claims in some writing of his that he was visiting a friend in the hospital and met her that way. His sister, Marshall Applewhite's sister, said that he was in the hospital for some kind of heart procedure, something, and that she was his nurse. And yet, other sources say that it could have been something in a psychiatric
I was gonna
hospital
say
because,
the story that I remember hearing, and it was either a TV documentary or a podcast. So where else would I have
yes,
got it? Was he was in a psych ward, that he was supposed to be in a show and he had a breakdown and he ended up in the psych ward, and um
right.
she was a nurse there, and that's how they met. Which to me feels like it could be a true story based on where
I
we end
mean,
up.
right,
So,
right. Regardless,
they met each other.
how based on the circumstance, they met each other in a hospital.
Hmm.
Don't know why they were both there, but anyway, they met each other in a hospital. Um, After that, Applewhite claimed that he had met Bonnie Nettles in a past life. So it felt like he had known her before they had actually met in person. And she claimed their meeting had been foretold to her by extraterrestrials. Yes.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's like she knew they were going to meet because the aliens told her
The
so.
aliens told her.
Hmm. So this claim convinced him he had a divine purpose and assignment, and they began investigating alternatives to traditional Christianity, such as like astrology, mysticism,
Mhm. Tarot
UFOlogy.
cards.
Yes, that kind of stuff. Um, Applewhite and Nettles wound up living together, but it was just a platonic cohabitation. Nettles' husband ultimately divorced her. She was married and had children,
Mm-hmm.
and he wound up getting full custody of the kids,
Good.
as he should have.
Yep. It's good.
um, Marshall Applewhite broke contact with his family as well, and they said that they saw each other as soulmates in the sense of like, we don't have to be physical to make this a thing. We're like, you're my soulmate because we're besties. I don't
Oh, I
know.
mean, okay, sure. Whatever works.
I know, yes, but they lived together, and Nettles had a great influence over Applewhite, reinforcing his delusional beliefs because that's really what this is.
No,
But her
Claire, it's
influence, it
real.
said, yeah, right. But it said her influence helped him avoid further psychological deterioration.
Mm-hmm.
That her being there helped him with whatever he was going through because apparently it was a lot. So in 1973, they began to travel and teach, spread their beliefs, and they did acquire one convert in that time. They studied the works of Francis of Assisi, the King James version of the Bible,
Boo.
right? The worst version.
The
Um,
inaccurate version of all of the
but
versions, the most inaccurate, I guess.
right, but solely focusing on the New Testament, really, in the King James version. Um, they've read a lot of science fiction authors like Helena Blavatsky, who was big into like mysticism,
Hmm.
and R.D. Lang, who was a psychiatrist who focused basically on mental illness and psychosis.
Okay.
They studied all that with their belief system. So they believed that they had been chosen to fulfill biblical prophecies and their minds were on a higher level than the rest of humanity, and that they were the two witnesses from the book of Revelation who come
Sure.
prof- to prophesy.
I mean, why not? Why not, I say?
And so they called themselves the two or the UFO two. And they believed that they would be killed and then restored to life and transported on a spaceship called the Demonstration. And obviously, these claims were poorly received by the public. Everybody's kind of like, no, we're
Everybody's
not.
like, I'm sorry. Could you repeat
Right.
that?
Yeah, everybody's like, no, no, we're not doing this. No, no. I can't find a good way to get my pad on the table without it like flipping everything. It's like,
Sorry, I'm
um,
still thinking about of all the names to name your spaceship, the demonstration feels
the
like you
demonstration.
weren't
Yes.
really trying very hard.
No. Mm-mm. No.
I feel lacking. It feels lacking.
They resolved to contact extraterrestrials and sought out like-minded followers. So they recruited disciples that they called the crew.
Sure, sure.
And they held events and published flyers and pamphlets for their meetings that they were holding, and they gained about 25 more people in this one group in like 1975. And what it was, it's September 1975, they preached at a motel hall in Waldport, Oregon.
Oh, good.
Yes. And like I said, around 20 to 25 people joined, and they told them that it was like in that moment they had to like sell their possessions and just peace out from their families. And that, and this is what I didn't understand, if this was like another spaceship or like what you became, but it was Tela, Telah, which means the evolutionary level above human. So I guess you like reach it, like you can reach
Oh,
Tela
okay.
after you, yeah.
Shed your
But
humanness, become Tila. Sure, sure.
yes. So these people, after they did that, they just disappeared from public eye completely. and they were promised a spaceship to take them to salvation. And apparently, Walter Cronkite reported on it, was one of the first reports ever involving this particular religious group.
Hmm.
He said a score of persons have disappeared. It's a mystery whether they've been on a so-called trip to eternity or simply been taken. Right. It's just like, whoa. Um, let's see. So they were known, I got a couple names here other than Heaven's Gate. They were known as Human Individual Metamorphosis or Total Overcomers Anonymous. I'm like, what are these names?
It's like they're just random words put together.
Yes,
I don't
and
understand.
that's before they settled on Heaven's Gate. But after
Thank you for settling on the one that somehow is the
right,
least bananas.
right, out of that. Um, let's see. After the group did this, they kind of went underground, and Applewhite and Nettle started calling themselves. Ugh. Anyway, Doe and Tea. So Applewhite was Doe, Nettles was Tea, or they would call themselves Bo and Peep. Like that was
Mhm.
their
Mhm.
otherworldly names.
Mhm.
And they wound up gathering at this time. They nearly had 100 followers. And they were basically living in tents and kind of begging. And then apparently, like in the 80s, they got into the internet game and started like designing websites.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's how they got their money was designing websites.
Early adopters, man.
Yes. And so in this group, once they started getting bigger, it was no sex, no human level relationships, and no socializing. And Applewhite went as far as that he castrated himself
Oh.
because he was in it. He was in
Ugh.
it to win it. He yeah.
I'm sorry.
And
There is no religion, there's no salvation that is worth
no,
that.
no,
Don't.
none at
Don't.
all.
Don't.
And according to it was a guy who was in the group at the time. His name was Michael Conyers. He said that everything there was just complete uniformity.
Mhm.
Everything was alike, even the mundane things as he was talking specifically about pancakes. Like if you were making pancakes, it was like I don't even know if they had like a thing to measure. Because let me tell you what, when I make pancakes,
Mhm.
it's a hot disaster. Like I cannot. There is nothing uniform about the pancakes I make.
Same.
Absolutely not. But it's like everybody had to have the same size pancake, the same amount of pancakes. Everybody wore the same thing. Everybody did the same things. I mean, it was just
They all had
like,
the same
ugh.
haircut, man. I saw that.
Yes, yeah, that
Scary.
kind of thing. Yeah.
'Cause I'm like, I don't look good with hair like that.
No, me neither. I know.
Sorry.
But Applewhite believed that he was directly related to Jesus and that he was Jesus' successor.
But
I know. And that he was the present representative of Christ on earth, quote unquote.
okay.
And they taught, yeah, and they taught that Doe's vehicle, bodily vehicle, which that's what
Mhm.
they referred to themselves as their bodily vehicles. And so Doe is Applewhite. That it was inhabited by the same alien spirit which belonged to Jesus,
Jesus was an alien?
apparently.
Yes.
And T, who is Bonnie Nettles, was presented as God the Father. So she was like God
Whoa, that's
in
very
yeah.
progressive.
Yes, yes.
So
And in
wait,
night
so she was the daddy of him then,
apparently,
technically?
appar- I guess,
Cool.
or what was residing in her was.
Where's the Holy Spirit? Who's that one?
There was not. They didn't mention a
Is it
Holy Spirit
duology and not a trinity? Wow.
apparently because everything is two. The two, the UFO two, Jesus and God. There's
Well,
no Holy
now we know
Spirit
that's
mentioned.
where they went wrong. Because as you if you we learned last week, if you deny the Trinity, you will be in a plane crash. So,
You are gonna die.
sorry, I don't make the rules.
So yeah, in '76, um, they became really reclusive and stopped recruiting. And they, again, banned sexual activity, they banned drug use, and this is when the tone of the group kinda shifted from, like, "Oh, we're just kinda together hanging out, listening to
Mhm.
this guy talk," to, "We are a religious movement." We
Mhm.
are, that kind of thing. It's like, we're gonna start enacting all of our beliefs, and we're gonna be crazy about it. The group was best known in UFO circles, obviously. And it says mostly ignored otherwise, but they were known to the media.
Mm.
And it said an early recruit, the Michael Conyers I mentioned about talking about the pancakes, said that the message was appealing because they were talking to my Christian self, but in a modern way, a modern updated way.
Mhm. Mhm. I can
And
see
so
that.
that's why he kind of got sucked in. And they also believe that Virgin Mary was impregnated after being taken to a spaceship.
Yes.
So Jesus is an alien.
I mean, for some reason that's like a funny, weird whatever, but if that's really what the story was, I don't know that it's that different than God impregnating Mary. Like it
Right.
sure. Why not? Why not? Does it negate the story? No? No, not
Right.
really? It kind
Yes.
of still is fine? Okay, that's fair, go.
But the cult believed that they were operating on a clock, and if they stayed on Earth long enough, they would see the recycling, which when the Earth would be destroyed and wiped clean.
Oh, that's coming soon, so no
Yes.
worries. There's still
Yes.
time.
Yeah. And sadly, in 1985, Bonnie Nettles passed from cancer, and obviously that dealt like a giant blow
Right,
to the
because she
cult.
wasn't supposed to die yet.
Exactly. And so Applewhite, suffered like a big personal and emotional and philosophical blow. Like
Mhm.
they were so connected. And so like you said, a lot of them were like, why did she die before Tila
Mhm.
returned? You know, and to come get them, to take them to that higher plane. And so at this point, Applewhite began focusing on one particular belief, which was bodies were just a vessel slash vehicles, and that the vehicles could be abandoned when the humans were ready to ascend to the next level.
Oh, so she was ready to
Uh huh.
ascend to the next. I love
Yep.
how that works out for
That's
you.
exactly what it
It's
was.
like,
He claimed that
"Oh,
Nettles,
no, it's
yeah,
fine. She didn't die. She ascended to the next level. Like, she was
yeah, that's,
ready. She was ready before the
hmm,
rest of us. Isn't that amazing?"
right. That's what it was. He claimed Nettles had exited her vehicle and taken her place in her new home among the Tila beings.
Hmm.
So, yes. But yeah, this is about the time when they started working on websites and getting their money.
Mhm.
So, fast forward to 1996. Actually, technically, let's do 95.
Okay.
July 23rd, 1995, Alan Hale and Thomas Bopp separately saw this comet in the sky, and it was named the Halebop Comet.
I
They were
remember
not
Hellbop. Everybody was very
Yes.
excited about Hellbop.
I remember driving home from ball games, and
Mhm.
we could see it, like,
Mhm.
because we didn't live in, like, the city. It was kinda, like, out in cow pastures, our little subdivision was, and it was like you could just see it plain as day just
Mhm.
shooting across the sky. Yes, I know, I was like, "Oh, that's so cool," and then all this happened.
Right?
It's like, "That's really neat," and then it's like, "Oh."
But
So,
then
right, yeah. But yeah, so July 23rd, 1995 is when the Hale-Bopp comet was seen for the first time. Like, Alan Hale, Thomas Bopp, they saw it separate times, but same day, so they gave them both credit for it.
Mhm.
In '96, a guy named Art Bell, who was the AM host on the Coast to Coast show, spoke about a companion object to the Hale-Bopp, which was seen by amateur astronomer Chuck Schrammick in Houston,
Mhm.
and he had whatever his instruments were, he was able to capture an image that showed a fuzzy, elongated object nearby that was like at the tail of the comet. And his sky viewing program that he had didn't identify as a star, and he was the one who said it was like a Saturn like object. So they're like saying that this thing that was at the tail of the Halebop comet that he saw was like a spaceship.
Right.
And so he was the one who called Art Bell on the radio show, and Art Bell started talking about there being a spaceship in
Mhm.
the tail
Of
of the
Hellbop.
comet.
Mhm.
Yes. And so Applewhite saw this as a sign.
Of course he did.
Yeah. And it was a way to evacuate the earth. That this spaceship is what Heaven's Gate had been waiting for this whole time that they've been preaching and all that. And that this spaceship at the end of this comet was coming to take them to Tila, to their higher
Mhm.
plane. And so Heaven's Gate, because they had all this money from their online adventure, rented a mansion in San Diego and decided that this place would be the place that they were going to leave their vehicles.
I mean, you might as well
So,
leave them in luxury. I mean,
right, yes. And so 39 cult members ate applesauce and pudding laced with a heavy dose of barbiturates. Some washed it down with vodka. And then they would place bags on their head. And they did this in different groups, not all at once. So they would have like so many do like the first wave, and then they would clean up because obviously with the barbiturates and the vodka, people would start vomiting.
mhm.
That so they would clean up, and they would, once the people were dead, then they would go and they would lay them out in the beds to make them all nice and neat and cover them with a purple shroud. Um, Applewhite was the 37th one to die. That two people were left to prepare his body, and then they took their own lives.
Bleh.
Yes. So, March 26th, 1997, an anonymous tip came into the police, and they found the 39 bodies lying neatly in the bunk beds, and they were all dressed identically, black tracksuits, the Nikes. They had armbands saying Heaven's Gate away team. And the
Away
tipster,
team.
yes, Heaven's Gate away
Oh
team.
my god. Well, at least they had a sense of humor even in their
Right, I know.
demise.
But the the tipster was a former member of the cult and who wound up leaving like just a few weeks before all this went down.
Mhm.
I guess it was just they saw the writing on the wall and was like, I need to GTFO. But they received videotaped farewells from the group and a map to the mansion.
Hmm.
So they called it in because they knew that this had happened. And today, Heaven's Gate has four surviving members that are instructed to run the group's website and are still doing so. And they still believe and say that they have been in contact with the 39 members who passed away
Of course they
on
have.
that at the mansion. That
That's
they're still talking. They can still sense them and all that.
ugh,
So
ugh, ugh.
I
Okay.
know.
Um, ugh. The,
Anyway, that is the gist of
mhm.
Heaven's Gate.
It's one of those memories because like I remember it
Right.
happening. I was
Same.
young, but like I knew what a cult was, and I understood that they had done a mass suicide. But it was on every new like it's all anyone talked about for weeks
Right.
because it
And
was
I just
like
remember the shots of like, I guess like where they went in there and they never showed like the full body, but they
they
would
would
just
show
show the
like the
shoes.
feet. Uh huh.
Yeah, just sticking out from under the blanket, and you're
Hmm.
like, and just seeing like the rows of beds, and you know, like I have those memories. Like it wasn't like I watched the news a lot as a 12-year
No,
old,
but
but
it was such a an unheard of thing that it stuck out in my mind even.
right.
So,
And I
ugh.
just remember his face. the guy Applewhite's face was plastered like all over the TV.
Mhm.
It was just, and I don't even think as a kid, I don't even know that I really grasped what a cult was, because
Mhm.
it was just like, oh, it's a religion, you know,
Right.
like complete rudimentary
Mm.
terms.
It's
Like it's a
like
religion.
if our pastor tells us to kill ourselves, I guess we will too.
Right. Yeah. It was just so
Ugh.
like, ugh.
Hmm.
Yeah. But I just remember I like that is one that I remember completely,
Yeah. Well,
like
because it
when it
that was, and I'm
happened and
pretty sure that's the reason why we remember Hellbop. Honestly, because like
100%. Yep.
because they talked so much about the connection. Is Hellbop.
Yes. Yes. That they believed that there was a spaceship on the tail of that comet
It
and that
was
they killed
coming for him.
themselves. Uh-huh. And then in my head I'm like, but Mark Twain did that. He already did
Like
that.
it's been done. So
But
hmm.
being a copycat.
Yeah. Yeah. Like come up with your
Anyway,
own original ideas, please, and thank
right.
you.
Yes, right. Anyway, that's the basic story of Heaven's Gate.
It's amazing. I
And I just feel
watched.
bad for him because I feel like it's such a tragic life.
Yeah. Well,
Like
and I watched, I think it must have been HBO that they had like
they had one.
a
Uh-huh.
mini series documentary or something.
Mhm.
And for me the thing that really stuck out is that um what's her name? Bonnie? Was that her name?
Yes. Uh-huh.
She had a daughter from her marriage and like had basically cut contact with the daughter for a long time and then was contacting her without the rest of the cult knowing because you weren't supposed to. It
Right.
was a whole thing. But then like her mom died of cancer and it was like months later that someone reached out to her to let her know your mom's dead.
Your mom has passed
And
away.
I
Yeah.
just remember thinking, what the hell? Like
Right.
I
Yeah.
can't. It's one thing to have a family member in a cult. It's another to have your mom leave you to go run a cult. Like
Right.
and then you only find out that she died from cancer because someone bothered to write you a letter months later. Like it was something so
Like you're an
absurd.
afterthought. Like, "Oh yeah, by the way,
And I
you know."
couldn't wrap my head around that. I was like, what do you do with that? And then I think they talked to some of there's like a couple of surviving members, as you said, and like just how empty their lives are at this point. Like they've just never like
Right.
re-embraced society or anything. Like they feel like they got left behind almost. And because
Oh
like
yeah,
one of
because
them
it's
I
like,
think
why
were
did
like there was one guy or a couple of them were just out running errands or they were out doing stuff when suddenly this was decided that they were going to kill themselves. You're like, what the fuck?
right.
Ah,
But I
okay.
mean, but it happened over several
Right,
days,
right,
I
right.
guess. So it's like,
But they were off property for a reason. Like they were intentionally off property to go do
yes.
something for culty people. And
Yeah, and then it's
so,
just like it's the 4 of you left, and
mhm,
it's like, so do you just keep going with this cult, or I mean, are you gonna lean into it, or are you gonna? I
yeah.
don't know. But they're still apparently still running the website, so
So you can still go visit
I don't know what
heavensgate.com, dot org,
I didn't
net,
look it up. I didn't look it up.
surely.com. They were early adopters.
That's right. Anyway, there you go. Heaven's Gate.
Well, thank you, Claire. That was amazing and terrifying. Um,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
And I just love how it's like any other religion, or it's like something happens that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
fit your mold, and then like, oh, I'm gonna call an audible, and then I'm just gonna focus on this one thing out of context.
Well, but I mean, again, I argue Christianity does it too. I mean,
Oh no,
oh,
I'm saying
oh,
religion
in
in
general.
general.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not talking about
Yeah.
just cults. I'm talking about religion because oh, absolutely. People do that with Christianity all the
It's
time.
like, oh, well,
Please.
it's that, if it's just God wants you to learn through this tragedy. You know, God still loves you. He doesn't want bad things to happen, but God only gives you what you can handle. That's my favorite one. I'm like,
Right.
fuck
Ugh,
you.
gross. So gross. Gross.
It's like, no, that's not. Mm-mm, mm-mm,
Yes.
mm. Dude, and
Or
I
one of
twitch.
those where it's like, well, maybe you did something.
No,
No. No.
you earned
Those are
God's
my favorite.
punishment.
Right? Yeah. What did you do? What did you do to earn this?
Oh dear. So, like the people who weren't there, maybe they let their hair grow out too much or they made pancakes in the wrong shape. I don't know. I don't know.
Right.
Like I don't know what the rules
Exactly.
are. They seem arbitrary and asinine.
Somebody got an extra
And
pancake that they weren't supposed to have.
I argue any religion that requires you to maintain celibacy. Mm.
Yeah.
Looking at you
Even
Catholics
like
with
even
your
goes
like, if you let your priests have sex like legally, then we probably wouldn't have as many pedophiles and horrific things.
right.
Just saying. Gross.
I know. It's just yeah, it is super gross. Even to the point where it's like, "Oh, I'm going to castrate myself."
Yeah, I can't.
No.
I can't. I can't. Mm-mm.
Right, same. Can't either.
And I mean, obviously, that doesn't really apply to me. I can't castrate myself, but mm,
Right.
mm, it just
Bleh.
it feels like too big of an ask. If your
Yeah.
religion wants you to castrate yourself, it's time to take a big deep breath and take a step back and be like, you know what? I'm gonna think
We
about
need to
that.
we need to reevaluate what we're doing. Yes.
Oh dear.
Indeed. All right.
One of the
So,
other weird things that I remember from the documentary is that one of the people, I think it was people who had left before it had gotten to that point,
became yeah.
we're talking about how they all had different names. Like they were all given new names that all ended in
Yes.
like
Uh-huh.
Odie or Dodie or whatever, because it was
Uh-huh.
Doty were the
Yes,
two people's
Doty.
names.
Yeah.
And so
Mhm.
they put Dodie at the end of everybody's name. And they were weird whatevers.
Yes.
But that it came about because one of Bonnie's favorite movies was The Sound of Music. And they often sang Do a
Mm.
Deer like together. And I'm like,
Of course they did.
could you have made this cult even more annoying without like I just
Which is funny because I'm like in the middle of Riley Sager's Home Before Dark, and there's those whole scenes where it's like the Sound of Music
Mhm.
playing on the record
Right.
player.
I'm
It's
so glad
solid.
you're enjoying that. Please let me know when you're done because
It's
I can't wait
terrifying.
to for you to be like "Ah!" and like
It is
rage into
terrifying.
the void.
I know,
It
right?
is
Yes.
terrifying. It's one of the more terrifying books I've ever read.
Yeah, I'm about halfway finished, so
Well,
I listen to it whenever I'm in the car.
that was excellent, Claire. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So I guess that means it's time for tarot time with April. Spooky, spooky. All right, Claire, tell me when
Mhm.
to stop. It's Joe, a deer, a deer, Ray, a space beam from a spaceship. Me, a name, I call myself. A long, long way to go on my spaceship.
Stop.
Felt
Nice.
accurate. It felt accurate for the moment.
It was
All
accurate.
right. We have the Pope. The Pope is back.
The Pope.
And oh, with the Queen of Wands. We love her.
Oh, we love the Queen of Wands.
And the Six of Pentacles, which we had last week, I think.
Yes, we did.
Interesting. All right.
That
So
was the generosity. I think the Six of
it,
Pentacles was the
I was gonna say
generosity
I
card.
I feel like I know these pretty well because the Pope is is the go between for gods, which I find interesting after talking about a guy who believed that he was in fact Jesus, who is one of the go-betweens. So interesting. Interesting.
Right.
But it's also the card of, figuring out what you need to know in order to do shit. Like it's the learning card. Learn what you need to know, kind of a
Is that
thing.
also the Hierophant, or is that
Yes,
something
that's the
else?
Hierophant.
Okay.
And then we have the Queen of Wands, who is Professor Minerva McGonagall, one
She's
badass
a
bitch who knows her
she's
shit.
a boss ass
She is
bitch.
boss ass bitch, and she's got confidence, and she's gonna get shit done, and she ain't gonna take no sass. You understand?
Right.
She doesn't stand for fools. Got no time for
That's
that.
right. Exactly.
And then we end with our generosity card, which is giving of time, of love, sometimes of money, but giving to those around you who need help and being, mostly a not shitty person. So not a bad set of cards, I must say.
No, it's not.
I'm
That's
here for learning the things that I need to learn in order to move forward in life and make good next steps and having the confidence in which to do so and
that's right.
and suffering no fools. Like I ain't
That's
got time for
right.
that bullshit. But being generous to those
Exactly.
around me because, I can still give them my time and my help. So that sounds nice.
That's not a bad week.
That's not bad at all. And I'm also really proud of myself for not needing to look up any of these cards.
Yes, I know.
Yay!
You're like, yeah, I'm getting
I'm
in.
finally getting
I'm
there.
getting. I'm in a flow.
I mean, there are some that I just know better than others, apparently.
Yes.
Hmm. But there you have it. All
Yay.
right. So, Claire,
Yes.
what do we have for next week? What is our next topic according to the wheel
Wheel
of
of
fate?
Fate.
It's gonna be a new topic for us. What's it gonna be? Oh,
Museums.
museum. Oh, yes. Oh, God, I'm so fucking happy.
I think that was yours.
Yes, because I specifically want to do one very specific story. So, yes.
Ah, okay.
And I'm very excited about it. Thank you. Thank you, Wheel of Fate, for bringing me joy.
Museums.
So be sure to join us next week as we tell true crime and paranormal and other weird stories about museums.
Yay.
What? But until then, you can find us in all the things and all the places at.
Brunch and Judge.
Please follow, like, subscribe, comment, share, do some like fun dances, bring the rain, whatever you want. We're here for it all. And you
Right.
can send us some more ideas for our Wheel of Fate or any specific stories you'd like to hear and send those to us at.
Brunchandjudge@gmail.com.
So until next time, keep on brunching.
And keep on judging.
Bye.
Bye.
Brunch and Judge. Brunch and Judge. We brunch and judge everything and give you opinions that nobody asked for.